Hey, Bill and Eric. I hope you're both doing great. Today, I wanted to ask you a question about where you've seen dogmas in education. And I know that sort of sounds like an obscure question, but I think it'll make sense as I go through and explain. As I've worked with educators across the country, I've noticed, and I'm guessing you probably have too, that there are certain systems or there are certain districts where there are these pervasive views, but there's not a lot of a justification for why those views exist. Right? And that's what I would call a dogma in education. There's not a lot of evidence for why we do that. And sometimes it's just based on tradition, or sometimes it's based on a person in positional power who has requested that particular strategy or program be used with what I like to call the F word, fidelity, right? And I see these types of dogmas that exist oftentimes around things like, I'm going to get myself in trouble here, literacy program implementation, or around special education services and how those are administered, particularly with pullouts. And oftentimes people who question these particular practices or these strategies, it's not part of the culture to be allowed to question those things or to ask for justification. And if a person does, then they oftentimes receive either formal or informal sanctions for doing so. And I think this is a pervasive problem that we need to get better at by and large in education. We need to become more scholarly and being able to rely more upon research and being able to ask for justifications for specific practices. And I think part of that is just becoming more scientific in our mindset to recognize that when someone criticizes a practice or questions a practice, that it's not necessarily something that we need to be defensive about, but instead it's not only healthy, but it's helpful when a colleague questions our practice. I oftentimes find myself in a position of being that questioner and asking for justification. And sometimes people really do have great reasons for that. And it's even when they do have those great reasons for justification for why they're doing it, I still think it's a healthy thing for them to be able to explain it, because it helps them think more deeply about why they're doing that particular thing. And so I'm just curious what your experience has been or what your thoughts are on this idea of dogmas in education. Can't wait to hear from you guys. Thanks.